If I just enter an empty search request without anything, I get, as a result, all matches in the database, so all the publications we have. As you can see, we're approaching 3.5 million publications, and this number is growing daily thanks to our hardworking staff. And here you can see that you can select the number of results you display on a page, anywhere from 10 to 500. You can also decide in which order you'd like them sorted. So newest first, oldest first is our well-known alphabetical order of author or title as well. Relevance is a special criterion which will come into play later on. As you can see, for every publication here, we have a little checkbox here, which means you can select the publication and do a number of operations on them. For instance, you can export them to a content management system like RefWorks, EndNote, or Citavi. You can print some, you can save some, saving results that's in connection with an IxTheo account, which I'll get to later. And then on the right-hand side, you can see a number of filters you can apply to narrow your search. So the year of publication, you can specify a given year or a range of years. You can decide whether you want only open access publications or publications for which you would have to pay some licensing fees or buy a book. Then you have the media type, whether print or electronic, the format, and the language, and so on. In terms of format, of course, we offer the usual types such as article, book, and review, but we have also a number of other interesting formats which might be surprising at first, but could be useful in our bibliography. First one I'd like to get to is the archived material. If I click on it, I get a number of links to archived material on a number of authors. So let's just pick an author. I picked Hans Küng. He's sort of a local celebrity here in Tübingen since he worked for many years. So here you can see the record for the archival material on Hans Küng. If you click on the link, you just get the normal bibliographical information. But we also have here small icons, which you can click on. The one on the right-hand side, this little guy here, is a link to a person information page. I'll just click it to show it quickly. So this is a page which contains a lot of biographical and bibliographical information. We'll have a closer look at that page later on, but I just wanted to give a small preview here. If we go back to our link here, if you click on the little book, you get a list of, you get the whole list of publications from this author. So here we have over 1,300 publications, articles, books. Everything's in there. As we can see, he was quite a prolific author. And you have the links to the archival portals as well, which are portals in Germany. We can have a look at one of them. This is Archivportal in Germany. And those portals could be either portals on the author himself, or portals on other authors which mention this author if they work together at a point, at a certain time in their career. So as I mentioned, for now, those are just archival portals in Germany, but we hope to integrate portals from other countries in the future. So I'll just unselect this format here to have access to other formats. We can have a list of all formats here in alphabetical order. So this is not the complete list, unfortunately. I'll just renew the, I'll just renew the whole search. We only had the formats available for Hans Küng. If I go back to all the matches in our database, then you have a more complete list of the types of format we offer in our database. So you have anything from articles and books, as I mentioned, to weblogs, websites, and dictionary entries as well. And another one I'd like to mention is research data. Let's have a look at some of those format types. Martin mentioned open science in his introduction, and this is a concrete implementation of open science right here. A number of researchers have started putting their research data online. That is, basically they conduct their research, use a number of tools for that, and publish their results in a monograph and a series of articles. And then they're left with all this data they've used and organized. And of course, this data can be used by other researchers as well. And this is a very promising field for us. Researchers who make their data available to the public. Here, for example, we have keywords in Augustine's letters. So if I click on it, this is basically someone who conducted research on correspondence from St. Augustine. He's got 252 letters in Latin, and you can search these letters now. You can search keywords in these letters, and he basically made that available to anyone pursuing research in that field. So this is a promising new field, and we'd like to contribute to this by providing links to this kind of research.
David,
Yep.
könnten Sie Ihren Bildschirm ein bisschen größer machen?
Oh, okay. It seems
mit
that
Steuerung Plus.
It seems that my screen is not. Is this big enough?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. It seems that my screen was not as big as I thought it was. So another type which I'd like to show, if we look for research on this religion founders, Zoroaster, you can see here that we have dictionary entries as well. So some of them are basically digitized articles which were scanned from printed books. But in this case, we have an encyclopedia which is online. The Encyclopedia Iranica from the Brill Publishing House. And basically, they made this link available for us. And so you have direct access to this literature just with one click. So those are some of the filters which you can apply on your search. Now I'd like to say something about our indexing strategy. So I'll look for an example of an article. Any bibliography is as good as its indexing. It's a central part. This is how you can make the information searchable for users. So if you find an article and you just click on it to get the information on it, you see the usual bibliographical information. So the title, here is the sort of the abstract. Then you have the journal in which it appeared, the main author, format, language, etc. And here you have our indexing information. Our first level of subject indexing is the standardized subjects and keyword chains. So those are keywords we attribute to every publication which is indexed in this way. Here, those are all searchable keywords. So if I click on one of them, I get all the articles with this keyword. So in this case, sustainable development. If I look at it here, we have 903 articles with this keyword as one of its subject headings. The order matters in this type of indexing because it suggests relationships between the keywords. So for instance, you can see that raw materials and exploitation appear next to each other. So this is our way of suggesting that this article deals, among other topics, with the exploitation of raw materials. This is our most precise way of indexing publications. We apply it to a large number of monographs and to a selection of journals. Unfortunately, we can't apply it to all journal articles because there are just too many of them. And this is a very time-intensive, it's a very demanding exercise. So, but we do apply it to a select number of journals. So this is our first indexing level. Our second indexing level is the level of classifications, or notations, you can also say. We have our own classification system consisting of about roughly 140 classifications. Here you can see they just appear in alphabetical order, so there's no connection involved or anything. And it gives you a rough idea of what's in the article. We'll have a quick look at the classifications we have. If I conduct a search on absolutely everything, and then click on the list of classifications, we've tried to systematize them a bit. So the A's all have to do with religious studies, for instance, various fields of religious studies like psychology of religion, geography, religious life, religious education, etc. The B's describe various religions, all religions basically except for Christianity. This is a theological bibliography, so we have a large number of classifications dedicated to Christian theology and aspects of the Christian faith. They start with the C's, so Christianity and various aspects of life like culture, science, and politics. The F's are just general theological categories. The H's are biblical studies and early Judaism and archaeology. The K's are church history, so you have various periods of church history here described. The KBs are geographical units, so anywhere from a small country, a single country, to a whole continent. The KCs describe specific areas of church history. The KDs describe denominations and confessions, so Roman Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox, etc. The NAs and NBs describe various areas of systematic theology. Here we have a pretty good range: anthropology, Christology, doctrine of gods, which includes the Trinity, doctrine of creation, etc. The NCs concern ethics, so various fields of ethics, sexual ethics, business, political, social ethics. The R's describe practical theology, various aspects of it. The S's concern church law. Here we've split them according to denominations. denominational lines. The T's describe another chronological system. This is a system that's not concerned with church history, but with history per se, or with the history of other religions for religious studies. And then we have philosophy, law, and disease, which are social sciences. So this was just a broad overview of the classifications we have. And like I said, it's just to give a rough idea of what's in the article, of what kind of topics you should expect from a given article. Because this system is a simplified system of indexing, we can cover a lot more publications with this system. So most of our articles are covered with classifications in one way or another. So that's our second level. And our third level would be the full text search, which I'll describe more in depth in a minute. Here, I'd just like to add that we also include indexing information from the publishing houses when they give it to us. When we fetch the metadata, sometimes they have indexing information from the author of the article. So we're happy to provide this as well as a complement to our own indexing information so that the user has all the tools he or she needs to figure out what's in the article. And here you have the abstract as well. So that's pretty much what I had to say for our indexing strategies. Now, actually, what do you need this for? You want to conduct searches. You want to look for certain topics, for certain areas of interest. So now we'll get into specific searches, some examples. Typical entry in our website is just, okay, I've got the home page here, and I'll just type in the subject I'd like to find, on which I'd like to find literature. So you can do that, specify all fields, then it will try to match baptism with everything. So find baptism in the title of publications, or find baptism as a subject heading. If it's the name of a person, then we'll try to find this person as an author as well. This is your basic search. There's not much more to say to it. It's pretty straightforward. We also provide the opportunity to look for Bible passages, specifically for Bible passages. So I'll just type here a Bible passage. So from the Gospel of Mark. As you'll notice, I didn't type Gospel of Mark, or didn't type the whole name. I typed in the English abbreviation for it. As it turns out, our system recognizes abbreviations. We can have a look at the list of abbreviations we recognize. If you go on our homepage, you'll see a little introduction on how to search for Bible passages. So you can have a look at that later on, and read in detail how you would conduct the search here. I'll make this a bit bigger so that everyone can see. So as you can see for Mark, it would be pretty straightforward. You have MK in German and in English, or else you have MC in French, Italian, and Spanish. So for most biblical books, you have a number of variants that are recognized in the scholarly community. And we tried to cover as many of those variants as possible to make your search as easy as possible. So as you can see, some books have more variants than others. The only thing you have to watch out for is we specify our searches with a comma between the chapter numbers and the verse numbers. Apart from that, you can type the Bible passage with your abbreviation of choice. If it's recognized by the scholarly community, we probably have it in our list. I mentioned relevance early on, that would come in handy. This is an area where relevance plays a role. When you specify a Bible passage like this, some articles deal with the whole passage, others deal with parts of the passage, with one verse, etc. So relevance in this case means that at the top of the list, you'll always have an exact match of your search request. And the further down you go, the more you'll get partial matches. So overlapping basically with the passage you specified in your search request. So that's where the relevance comes in. So Bible passages are neat, but you can search for a lot more. For instance, if you're interested in canon law, you can specify a section of canon law, such as section 100 of the 1983 Codex Ius Canonici. So here you can see for every match, you can see which parts of canon law are covered, which sections. So this is also a neat feature. If you're a church historian and you'd like to look for articles on a given period of time, you can also specify a time range. So 1900 to 1914, and there you go. And again, relevance also means, again, the bigger overlaps at the top and the smaller overlap further down. Let me have a look here. So those are neat features. What if you'd like to combine several parameters in your search? That's a very important thing to have. And the best way to achieve that is to use our advanced search here. Let's just say I'd like to look for something on baptism. So I specify here baptism as a subject heading. And then I seem to recall that a scholar named Sebastian Brock, who works in early church history in the Near East, in the Syrian area, seemed to recall that he wrote something on that topic. So I'll select him as an author. And then to make things more interesting, we could add one of our own classifications in there. You have baptism. You could look at baptism from a sacramental point of view, but also from a liturgical point of view. So let's just see if there's something on liturgy in there. We have a classification for liturgy. It's RC. So now we have these three parameters, and let's see if we can find something with a match. And as it turns out, there is an article which matches all these parameters. And you can see here, the results here, it's as if you had typed this here and selected this classification as a filter. It's the same thing. So there are several ways of achieving the same result. If you use our interface for advanced search, it just makes life easier for you when you perform your search. So those are just some of the possibilities you have when you want to perform a search. Now I've mentioned full text search earlier on. With this option, you can search for specific words found in abstracts, tables of contents, references, or even in the texts of some articles and monographs. Again, the best way to demonstrate this is to provide an example. Let's look for anointing. You always get for each item here the beginning of the list of all matches. Sometimes there's much more to this than just what is displayed. So if you want to get the whole story, you have to click on all matches. So here we can see that we're dealing with an article, and in the abstract, anointing is mentioned 4 times. So as I mentioned, there are several types of texts where we perform the search. Summary, we've just seen, those are basically abstracts which we fetch along with the other data when we integrate articles in our catalog. We also have tables of contents. Those are basically the tables of contents of monographs for the most part, which we've scanned and digitized ourselves to make them searchable for our users. So here it's a pretty good example because you have a book called Sex, Working, and the Bible. You'd never think that anointing would come up in a book like this. And yet, thanks to the full text search, you realize, oh, there's something on anointing here. So you can go have a look and see if it's interesting for your research. Then we have the full text search itself as well. We have a number of, we have a special collaboration with a number of publishing houses who gave us permission to search their publications, not just their open access publications, but also publications you would normally have to pay for with licensing fees or through a purchase. So this is a neat thing because you might not have the book in your hand, but at least you know that this topic comes up in here in this article, for instance. And judging from what you can see here, if you think, oh, this might be something for my research, you can go on and purchase the publication yourself, or else you can go to your local library and have a closer look at a copy and borrow it. So now I've just demonstrated what happens when you search for one term. But a lot of terms in theology are, well, not necessarily synonymous, but sometimes you have certain concepts and you use different terms, and they're almost synonymous, or they're related to each other in a certain way. If you specify full text and synonyms, then you might have more matches. So you still have, I specified here with full text and synonyms, and you still have this match here with this article and this one. But if you go further down, you then see, maybe I'll make it a little bit bigger. You see here the term unction, which is a form of anointing in a sacramental context. So here you have the ability to have access to a larger set of literature dealing with your subject. I'll make it a little bit smaller again, a little bit more manageable. Now, most international researchers don't just want to look for a term in publications in the English language. Maybe you'd like to have research covering all or most a large number of languages. You can do this by specifying multilingual synonyms here. Here we have again the same match we had at the beginning with anointing, but here at the second place we have a match with Salbung, which is the term anointing in German. And if we go further down the list, we'll find articles and monographs with this term in French, in Spanish, in Italian, etc. So it's a pretty neat feature to find literature to find literature on a given topic. So I've covered this. Now we'll move on to a whole different subject, persons and person information page, which I mentioned at the beginning. You can search directly for a person, just like for any other subject. We'll come back to our local celebrity, Hans Küng. So you have to pick the right one. Sometimes you have several people with the same name, or you have the name used for a foundation or of some sort. You'd be surprised at the number of Karl Barths we have in our database. In this case, there's not much trouble involved. There's just the one Hans Küng. And here you have good selection of biographical and bibliographical information. So where he was born, where he died, his occupation, where he worked, etc., where he lived. Here it starts to get interesting. We have biographical references. So, of course, there's more to say about Hans Küng. If you want to have more, you have here links to Wikipedia articles. Here are links to the authority file in the German National Library, for instance. So you can always go and find more information that way. The archived material I've mentioned at the beginning. Subsystems is something which I'll come back to. Basically, the IxTheo is not the only website we offer. We also have a website dedicated to biblical studies. It's called Index Biblicus. And it also has person information pages. And if I clicked on this, we would have access to literature by Hans Küng, but dedicated to biblical studies. So that would be a more narrow focus in our research. Now, if you're interested in an author, you want to know usually what he or she is published. And here you get the newest titles by this author. If you click on See All, you'll get the list of everything he's ever published in our database. Same thing here with newest titles. Those are articles which were written on Hans Küng as a subject, on his theology, on his thought. So those are the latest ones which were entered in our catalog. And if you want more, you can click on See All, and then you get all articles dealing with Hans Küng and his theology. Here you have a list of related authors. Those are authors who worked with Hans Küng, who published with him together. Taking as an example another local celebrity from Tübingen, Jürgen Moltmann, who also worked here. You have 3 links with these icons here. This little guy here would be the link to his own person information page. This here is a link to all the titles he's published in our database. And this chain here is a link to the literature which Moltmann and Küng published together, or to which they contributed together. So as you see, in 14 publications, they worked together. Either it could be that one was an author, the other an editor, or they were both authors. It doesn't matter. If they work together, they'll be listed here. So also an interesting thing to see what kind of collaborations were made between authors. Another neat thing here is our keyword register here, or keyword listing. Those are keywords, subject headings, basically, we assigned to publications by Hans Küng. So by default, you get it as a word cloud, which means the bigger the word, the more often he wrote on that subject. So as we can see, he wrote most often on Christianity. You can click on those, by the way, and get a listing of what he published. So here you can see it's equivalent to a research on Hans Küng and Christianity. And the smaller the heading, then the smaller the number of publications on this subject. You can also have this as an alphabetical listing or as a listing by according to the frequency of the topic. So as you can see, again, he wrote mostly on Christianity, and then decreasing order. He wrote less on religion in general, for instance. So this gives us a good idea of what this author was working on during his career, during his life. I'd also like to draw attention to our publication timeline. Each line in this chart basically is a number of publications by or about this author. So dark blue is by this author. We can see that his most productive year, for instance, was 1993. And if you click on this line, then you get a list of publications for this year. So it's like performing the search on the author and specifying as a filter year of publication. The same goes for publications about. We can see, for instance, that in 1980, there were about 70 publications on Hans Küng. So it seems to have been a pivotal year in his work. So this gives a rough idea of when he was active or when he was talked about also. So person information pages, quite useful. Now, let's say you've performed a number of searches and you wonder, where can I keep all of this? I mean, there's the usual method with pen and paper, but that's not really that convenient. As it turns out, we have a number of personalized services we offer, and those are free of charge. All you have to do is create an account and log in, which I will do right now. I have my own account already. Just have to type the password. So now I'm logged in. So we had been searching for baptism earlier on. Let's say I'm especially interested in this article and in this publication and this one, and I want to move on, but I just want to save them to look at them later. I just have to check the boxes here and then click on save and specify which list. In my case, I just have the D1 list, so I'll just use that, but you can create your own lists. So I just save them and I can go straight to the list, or else I can click on my account and then go to saved items. And here I have the items I've just saved appearing on top. And after that, other items I had saved in the past. So I can come back to this later on and have a closer look at it. Now, let's say you've just performed a search and you're just overwhelmed with the number of publications, of interesting publications you have. And you don't want to go through the trouble of having to check 20 or 50 boxes. Or maybe you have to go do something and you want to come back to it, you have the option of saving a whole search, or maybe it'd be more precise to say a search query. If you clicked on saved searches, you'll notice we've kept track of your latest searches. And then you can pick one which you find was especially interesting and then just save it. So for instance, this one with 3 parameters, this one was especially interesting, so I'll just save that whole search. And now I have that search here ready to use at any time. And if I click on it, it's like entering the search again. It's like going through the advanced search and typing in all the information, and I get the result right away. So a pretty useful feature. I have other searches here, which I've saved in the past. So I can go to that search. Here I had over 700 results. So this can be quite handy. Another interesting personalized service we offer is our alerting service. Most researchers follow a number of journals more closely because they figure those are very important journals in their area of expertise. If you would like to know when new articles are available for you to look at, you can basically search for the journal in our IxTheo and then select our alerting service. So I'll just look for a journal here. Let's just say the journal for the study of the Old Testament. I'll delete it. And now I'll search for it again. Journal for the study of the Old Testament. So now, in order to find it more quickly, I select a journal as a filter. And here you go. Journal for the study of the Old Testament. There's an online version here. And you can see this little bell icon. That's our alerting service. If you click on it and confirm that you want to subscribe this journal, whenever we enter new articles from this journal in our catalog, or whenever they're downloaded to us, you will automatically get an email with the list of new articles from this journal. So a pretty handy service as well. Going back to my account, another feature I'd like to draw your attention to is we offer a number of news feeds here, which you can also subscribe to. It's a pretty straightforward user interface. You just select the news feeds you'd like to keep track of, and then if you click on Show Personal RSS Feed, you get the latest news from these news feeds here listed. And you can also request from us that we would send you an email with the new entries. So this is another service you can request. So those are some of the things you can do with an IxTheo account. I'd just like to mention now a few last topics. I mentioned subsystems before. Like I said, we have the IxTheo, which covers our whole database. If you have a more focused approach on your research, if you'd like to research only certain areas of interest, you can pick one of our subsystems, one of our other websites. For instance, for religious studies, we have RelBib. If you're interested in biblical studies, we have Index Biblicus. If you're interested in canon law, church law, we have the Index Canonicus in collaboration with our colleagues in Innsbruck. And it's important that you realize all this information is available in IxTheo. You can always find everything in IxTheo. Those websites are just helpful when you want to have a more narrow focus on certain areas of expertise. Then you can use one of those websites. But all the literature you would find here, you would find in IxTheo as well. So another service I'd like to mention is our Open Journal service. We offer you the possibility of editing your own open access journal. We provide the server capabilities and tools to manage the editing process, and you handle the content basically. And as an added bonus, all your articles are then indexed in IxTheo. You can see which journals have been working with us since we started this service. And it's not just open to the German-speaking public. As you can see, we have a number of English journals in operation. So feel free to get in touch with us if you have an idea for a journal in your area of research. So since you're taking part in this webinar, you probably know we have a Twitter feed directly accessible through this icon. And if you have feedback for us, if there's a problem with our website or with our search capability, you come across a bug of some sort or a problem, you can always click on the feedback thingy at the bottom right of our webpage. You can enter your comments here. And when you submit it, the current URL with your search request, the browser version, and the site's cookies will be transmitted. As I said, in case there's a bug or problem of some sort, then we'll have all the information we need to look at the problem and fix it.